Yoder, village clerk, please call roll.
Burgess.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Davis. Washington. Here.
All right, move to item number 2. I've got Judge. Excuse me, you need to sit down. Here we go.
I want to know how to have no comment section for the audience on this meeting.
Okay. You are out of order. And I will tell you to please take your seat, or you're going to, we're going to call police right now to have you removed if you don't.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Still, I would like to
All right.
ask my question. Any trustee can ask.
We're going to move to item number 2. I know we got David Chandler coming in. I know we got Judge McCormick. You will all come up, please. Perfect timing. Yep, just walking in. Perfect time. So go ahead and come on in. Item number 2 is to review the amended intergovernmental agreement, and pretty much you've got item number 3 also, where we're going to review the Lincoln 394 corridor enterprise zone. So, if you would, state your name for the record, so the village clerk has it, and we'll go ahead and let you go into it.
I'm Dave Chandler. I'm with the principal business analyst for the Center for Data Technology.
We can't hear that, Mayor. Your time.
Okay.
My name's Dave Chandler. I'm the principal business analyst at the Center for Data Technology and a consultant in working through the enterprise zone application process.
Maybe just speak really close to the mic, because we have people that's hard of hearing out there, so they can't hear, so.
Okay.
Go ahead, Judge.
My name is Carl McCormick. I'm an attorney with the Studley Group, who is the attorney for the consultant for the enterprise zone.
All right. We've got some new trustees since the agreement was approved here through the village board. I think we've got at least 2 new trustees sitting on the board. If you kind of give a brief description about the enterprise zone, kind of fill them in, and maybe give us an update on what has happened since everything has been submitted, and what we're doing, and hopefully we do going forward.
Sure. An enterprise zone is an area that's created by state law in Illinois. And it's an area that's designated within which the state concentrates its incentives for business development, for business investment. Principal benefit of a business operating in an enterprise zone is that when a business undertakes a new construction project, the expansion of an existing facility or creation of a new one, it can waive the sales tax on the purchase of the building materials that it uses to create and build that facility. So that can mean 2 or 3 points off the total project cost of a new project or expansion project. It's a pretty significant incentive. There are another set of incentives that depend on the scale of investment that the business makes. Business that makes a large investment, that hires a certain number of people, is eligible to receive additional reductions in their utility taxes. Business can also receive appreciated depreciation on its investment. It invests in equipment, for example, to appreciate that equipment. So there are a number of incentives that are involved in the state enterprise. Now, in the past, Sauk Village and Fort Heights have constituted an enterprise zone. And that enterprise zone is scheduled to expire in 2020. And last year, in 2014, well, I should also say, the state has made a new law a couple years ago that involved all the states, all the enterprise zones of the states being terminated at the time they expire. And so if you wanted to have a new enterprise zone, you need to make an application for a new enterprise zone. Now at that time, in cooperation with the other municipalities in the southern suburbs, the South Suburban Affairs Managers sort of coordinated an effort through which there were 4 applications for enterprise zones that were created. And there were a number of
We can't really hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll try to keep it this volume level. Okay. So, in this effort to meet the state's requirements to create new enterprise zones, 4 enterprise zones were proposed. The one that serves this area was called the Lincoln and 394 Corridor Enterprise Zone. And it includes, I believe, 8 other municipalities, including the original Fort Heights and Sauk Village, Chicago Heights, South Chicago Heights, Beecher, Stager, I believe Olympia Fields. So this, Crete,
Glenwood.
Glenwood. And so all these municipalities cooperated last year, and including Sauk Village, in making an application to create a new enterprise zone. And the new enterprise zone included basically the industrial and commercial areas of all of these municipalities, because that's what the benefits apply to. And so our application was quite highly rated by the state, but the state made a change in the way, we should say the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, made a change in the way they interpreted clause in the state law. Correct me if I'm saying anything incorrect here, Carl, but previously, when the application was made, the state encouraged every municipality or county that wanted to create an enterprise zone, apply now, regardless of when your enterprise zone expires, because it's a competitive process, and we want everybody to apply now so you have the best chance of receiving your enterprise. So that's what we did, according to the state's recommendation. In our state, in our application, it was highly rated. But then, under the new gubernatorial administration, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity changed its interpretation of that law to say that you couldn't apply if your zone included a zone that was going to expire within more than 2 years away. So they would only consider applications that were for zones that were going to expire in 2 years. So our application, albeit it was highly rated, was set aside. Now, given that situation, we've looked for a workaround to resolve this problem. And the workaround is that we could expand the existing Sauk Village and Fort Heights Enterprise Zone so that it includes the enterprise zone as it was proposed. So that is the proposition that is before you in this intergovernmental agreement and the ordinance, that the existing enterprise zone will be expanded to include all of the area, all the towns that were proposed in the 2014 application. And so I think that brings us up to the position of where we are today. Questions about that? Sir.
Yes, I just, okay, since we had to reapply, would that harm the status? I mean, I see now we're included with the other, which we were included before. We were excluded because of the status at that time, because our enterprise zone doesn't expire until 2021. With what you're saying now, we're reapplying. Would there be a problem with us being included in this?
No, you have to reapply, you have to wait, by the current interpretation, you have to wait till 2 years before your enterprise zone expires, before you can reapply. But in fact, expanding the enterprise zone, I'd say it's probably necessary if you want to have an enterprise zone in the future. because it will be a competitive process. It will become an increasingly competitive process. And if you want your zone to succeed, you have to be able to demonstrate considerable economic development opportunity as well as need. And while the Lincoln Enterprise Zone, as it was proposed, was very competitive, the zone that would only include a couple of, the two original towns would, in all probability, be much less competitive.
Absolutely. That's what I'm asking. So you're telling us that we won't be able to be included in this agreement?
No, sir. Right now, you have an enterprise zone.
Yes, we do.
And you can expand the enterprise zone so that it includes what was proposed in 2014. And you can do that not through a competitive process, but just by the process of expanding.
Okay, so basically we can take our enterprise that we have right now with just us in Fort Heights and ask the other municipalities to join. And this is what this is about.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
A little further comment, Carl, for me. What we are actually doing is amending the existing enterprise zone to include some different territory land and some different municipalities and counties. So it's not an application for a new zone, which is a long drawn out process that we went through last year.
Right.
This is to amend an existing zone.
Okay. And now the other municipalities have no problem with that?
No, all the other municipalities agreed, as Sauk Village did, that they wanted to form this zone. And they're, from everything we've heard, are in favor of continuing to do that this year.
Now, I was at a couple of those meetings, and I just wanted to clarify some things. If people that are in this enterprise zone, they bring in new business, is that revenue shared with everyone in that enterprise zone?
Well, no. I mean, the business that comes, when a business comes, it's subject to the same taxation, regardless of where it is, as if the enterprise zone didn't exist, so it would pay, its taxes would go to the county, to its municipality. The main benefit from an enterprise zone is that you're creating a lot of jobs within your area. So one of the things we consider in setting up the enterprise zone is what is called as local labor market area. The area through which it's quite reasonable to think that people would go there to get a job.
But you're not making it mandatory that the businesses come out, hire people from this particular area. That's not being made mandatory.
No, that's not a requirement under the law.
Okay. So because I was under the impression that since I know it helps out in PR, that in this enterprise zone we have this, and would you like to be part of that? And I thought maybe that, say for instance, Fort Heights doesn't have the pull power, for lack of a better word, to bring businesses to their community, but Chicago Heights does, and Chicago Heights brings it. Does Fort Heights get anything from that?
Well, they don't get anything directly in the sense that they don't get any tax benefit from the business that would be located in Sauk Village or Chicago Heights or something like that. What they get is that there's more jobs very close to their community that get created.
Okay, but as we all know how jobs are right now, a lot of these places are using temp agencies and for a very good reason, but it's not a mandatory, so they don't have to hire from this area even though they're operating in this area. So that's the only thing I can see, which helps. Enterprise zone does help, but you cannot make it mandatory that they hire people from this area. And that's what I was looking at, I also understand that you bring big box in, then they have little small boxes, as I call them, and they have coattails. Maybe some of the coattails will drip off or drift to these smaller communities. But now, does the enterprise zone itself, this what you call a Lincoln
Corridor.
Lincoln Corridor, who does the advertisements for that? Is it done, in other words, what does it cost? Does it cost each individual municipality something to pay for advertisement, just like you guys. I'm sure somebody's paying something for legalities. I mean, where does that? Well, I'm just asking. I'm just asking a question. I mean, somebody, you know, if you're doing something, if you're putting out PR work, if you're putting out a brochure that shows that someone's paying for that, and I'm just wondering, is that coming from the government along with the other incentives that do come with the government? If you do certain things, the government will help you out with that because you are an enterprise zone.
Let's explain something real quick here. First of all, your services was brought through Sauk Mayor's and Managers, based off of revenues and stuff. I don't remember if it was a federal grant or state.
Well, I think that there was partly it was for Cook County and Will County provided funds, and then all the municipalities provided some funds.
Right.
So
That's what putting together this team right here to put together a package for this enterprise zone. When you look at enterprise zones, kind of give you a little bit, kind of probably go over a little bit what you've already said, but enterprise zones are set up to encourage businesses to come to your community, to build, and like you said about earlier, there is some tax breaks when it comes to building material. We also work with Sauk Mayors and Managers to give other benefits to bring businesses to our communities. There is job placement benefits. There is we call employee training revenues out there. We call them rebates. We call them stuff coming from the county. So it's the municipality's responsibility to market your area. You know, at Sauk Village, we market, especially the tip that we have an enterprise zone in, as when a business comes, you know, this is the perfect location for you to build your business because it's sitting in the tip. It's sitting in an enterprise zone. And we also work with mayors and managers. We work with Cook County Economic Development to help provide additional benefits and resources to bring you to Sauk Village. So, you know, and if I remember right, and I was in this early in the process, just about the entire community of Fort Heights is in the enterprise zone. Is it still that way?
it would be changed under the new boundaries, just the industrial and the commercial areas, not the residential areas.
Because I haven't seen the new map, so I didn't know if that part was being changed.
Yes, that would be part of what's changed.
Okay. Then we have our industrial and commercial areas. Nothing in Sauk Village has changed, is that correct? Or is there a small portion, or?
I have to say I'm not entirely familiar with the old map,
Okay.
but what is the current map, the proposed map, all of the industrial districts and commercial districts.
It was all commercial and retail.
But the map is the same as it was in the prior application.
Okay.
When it was denied.
All right.
It's the same map.
So the other thing too is the reason why we have before us tonight, their services were brought on is because the state was looking to, especially once you expire, get rid of all the enterprise zones. And their mayors and managers being very proactive, and it's not just mayors and managers. There was mayor caucuses across the state of Illinois started to do this. And when you think about Sauk Village had Fort Heights at the time, but there's other communities that had their own enterprise zones. Chicago Heights had their own enterprise zones. I think Stater had theirs. Olympia Fields had theirs. What this does is it shows intergovernmental agreements with all these communities coming together. And the new proposal was looking at a certain amount of area of land. And when you start putting together this corridor, like we put together all the mayors and David and Judge McCormick helped put together, you're looking at us submitting something to the state for an enterprise zone as an intergovernmental. It shows all these communities are working together, number one. Number two, it shows that we're using the maximum amount of property rather than just saying, I'm Sauk Village, I'm coming. And the reason for that is because there was only a certain amount of enterprise zones that they were giving out during this term. And for some reason, I want to say 40-something.
That's right, they only allowed 45 zones to be approved in the last one.
45 zones, and if you take a look, currently we have approximately 11 underneath ours, if you include Cook County and Will County. That would have been 11 enterprise zones, which we were able to shrink down to 1. So that made us look very much attractive to the state, showing that how very creatively thinking, working together, and you think about, you know, the state's looking at this. Every community has their own board, every community has their own attorneys, every community has their own mayor. We've got our consultants working with us. You know, that was a lot of work to put together, especially when we passed. I think the first time it was passed was like last year. So there was a lot of work that was put into this to get all the communities and all the counties involved to agree to move forward on this. So it kind of gives you a little bit of brief, because I know we've got two new trustees sitting here that were not involved in all this. So, trustee. Go ahead, speak, Bob.
Okay, so what are the obligations for each community? And does it depend on the size? And what does each community be this obligated to be into the enterprise?
Well, there are, the state was looking for local matches to go with the state benefits. And so in the ordinance that's been passed, I think the substantive local benefit is that 1/2 of the property tax that goes to the municipality would be rebated to the business if the property is not already in a TIF or not already receiving a tax abatement. So that's an obligation from each of the local communities to help to attract, to make our application competitive, to attract businesses. So the other obligations are, I think the other one is that, half of the application fee that you would charge to consider the application of your business is also waived for businesses that get enterprise zone benefits. So those are two contributions locally that each municipality in the enterprise zone makes.
And one thing just so everyone realizes, I think all the areas that we identify are already sitting in TIFs.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a common situation here in the south suburbs. So
right.
in practical terms, it doesn't mean very much. But perhaps, hopefully, when the TIFs expire and the area becomes more prosperous, that might be this.
Trustee Myers.
Okay, couple questions. On the last part of this, I noticed that County of Cook and the County of Will, both those counties are a pretty good size. Now, just certain portion of those counties going to be involved with this enterprise zone? Is that true?
Yeah, just very limited areas. The enterprise zone is limited to 15 square miles.
Along the corridor?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So some of those, some of the areas that include these industrial areas are part of unincorporated Will or unincorporated Cook. Very small areas, but some.
Okay, then my next question is, then in case the Olympia Village change their boundaries, that's going to be pretty close for them to be anywhere near that boundary line. Or how did Olympia Village happen to slip in here? Are they part of the mayor's and managers? Or that's how they got in? Or
You have to remember, I think it's 15 square miles total of space. However, you realize that these areas are all spread out, and it's because you take Sauk Village, I can't remember what we have, we may have a mile or two. Fort Heights may have a mile, Olympia Fields, and again, everything is pretty much connected by communities that are involved in it. So, you know, we have Sauk Village, we're connected to Stager and Creek. You got South Chicago Heights is connected to Stager, Chicago Heights is connected. All these communities are, if I remember right, connected according to our boundaries. So Fort Heights is next to Sauk Village. There were all.
So Olympia Hills connected to Chicago Heights and the Heights is connected. Oh, no, okay.
Yep.
Okay, pretty good, large area. And each, did you say earlier that just Fort Heights and Sauk Village has to show major improvement for the enterprise zone, or all these towns has to show improvement over the period of time be accepted?
Well, we need to make, we've had to make a case that we have significant opportunity for development. So
Okay.
like, part of that effort was that municipal officials from all the towns got letters from businesses saying that they were prepared, the business was prepared to invest money and hire people in the towns. And that was one of the reasons why the Lincoln corridor application was considered, rated very highly, because we were certainly in the top, the top quartile, top 20% of all the applications received in terms of that kind of support. And we could also point to some development that's already occurring in Sauk Village, for example. So we could say, well, hey, there's economic development. Yes, this is a depressed area economically, but there's economic development occurring. There's a lot of businesses that want to invest here. We have a lot of assets in terms of our transportation infrastructure. It makes sense, for the state to provide incentives in this area. So it was an argument, it's an argument, and it was a pretty good argument.
Well, yeah, because I know there's a couple of large projects going on in Beecher, and there's a couple of other projects going on down the street. But yes, but it's just not single to one individual, it's the overall group here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, as the mayor was saying, part of the strength of the application is that you have a lot of communities collaborating. And the collaboration is significant in itself, just to say, yeah, all these communities banded together to do this. And, the state could say, well, there's a lot of people involved in this. And there's a lot of opportunity.
Trustee James?
With the current agreement, it's between Fort Heights and Sauk Village, correct?
That's right.
Is Fort Heights considered as the primary municipality that's involved in that as opposed to Sauk Village?
No, Sauk Village and Fort Heights are considered equally.
And since this agreement is going to be amended, has Fort Heights been contacted to get their input or their thoughts on this proposal? And if so, what was their response?
Well, I have not heard from Fort Heights directly. I mean, they got the same information that all the other towns received. The Fort Heights representative didn't send a representative to either the meeting we had before or to the hearing we had here last week. I know that folks from the municipal staff here were going to reach out to.
And we did. Sauk Village has reached out to Fort Heights. In fact, started the first communications with the mayor. We've got probably 1 or 2 more meetings that we're going to be having with the mayor of Fort Heights. And I was talking to the judge before the meeting to see if we can maybe even get you guys involved in the talks. So we have, as a municipality from Sauk Village, started the first communication. I mean, today was the first meeting, right? Today was the first meeting with them because we realized they did not show up to the meeting. And I was talking to at Hazel to find out, where we're at on it. So that's what we thought, we're going to reach out to them and see if we can get them involved.
We were glad that Fort Heights last year, they were part of the same application. So we expected they would continue to be, but, since they, for whatever reason, didn't come to the first couple of meetings, we need to make a special effort to reach out.
Who is the current zone administrator?
Mohan Rao, your finance director, is the zone administrator now.
Okay. and this goes to the village, how much have we invested in this process thus far?
Which would be best now? Couldn't take the top of my head. I mean, we did this last year, so we'd have to look and see what we've invested.
When we're looking at the lineup of communities that's proposed, I expect them to be or have similar economic standing. But then when you throw in Beecher and when you throw in Olympia Field, they kind of sways it somewhat. If you look at Sauk Village and Fort Heights, they're fairly similar. But then Olympia Fields throws a completely different side on it. So I don't know how their involvement affects, in a positive manner, the rest of the communities that are involved in the process.
Well, I think some diversity, in the economic situation is probably a good thing, because you want to have a combination. So the application is rated partly on the basis of economic need and partly on the basis of economic opportunity, which means businesses that are prepared to invest and have demonstrated investment in the community. So probably the strongest application is the application that combines there's some diversity in terms of the economic status of the communities that are involved, so that you can kind of hit both, you can sort of ring both those bells in terms of being able to demonstrate significant economic need, significant investment opportunity that's demonstrated.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I did have just a quick one. I mean, you mentioned it earlier that this cost, is that cost shared by all the communities involved?
Yes, it was.
And this new agreement, the cost will be shared equally, or,
Well, actually,
right?
yeah, actually, all of the, when the funds were collected last year from the counties and the towns, it was a certain amount of money. And so this year, there will not be any additional funds collected by the towns. The towns have already paid everything.
Oh, okay. So,
The counties may pay some more money, or Carl and I might be doing a lot of pro bono work.
well, I just had to ask. I didn't want something to come up later on, but I just had to ask. Okay.
That's okay.
That's no problem.
That's
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, attached to your packet, if you look toward the back, is the ordinance. We're looking for the village to pass. Again, this is an amendment to the original one that was passed. I don't have the date, it was probably passed in 2014. So quite a few years, or about a year or so ago. So on the original one. So this is an amendment. And do you have anything you want to add to the amendment? Anything that we should know?
Technically, it's an amendment to the original application.
Okay.
As all for Sauk and
Good.
So,
That's why we have a lawyer saying, give me the proper terminology and the proper statement, so amendment to the agreement,
the existing.
existing agreement.
There's actually two. There's the one that says ordinance, for a quarter enterprise zone, that's a separate ordinance by itself. And then there's the one that says amendment intergovernmental agreement, it's got all of it listed. You need both of these approved.
Yes, we have two documents. One is the one which is amending the enterprise zone. And the intergovernmental agreement is an agreement among all of the existing parties as to how the enterprise zone will work. That's what the intergovernmental agreement is.
So we're approving this again
Right.
with the amendments.
Pretty much the same as it was.
Okay, yeah.
Do we need, because
because you stated that you haven't had a chance to talk to Fort Heights yet. Do we need their okay to move forward, or if they don't have anything to say or whatever, is it just us moving forward and their name to be taken off of this?
Yeah, Fort Heights would have to agree with, would have to pass the same ordinance essentially, for their town.
They would have to be okay with this.
Yeah, they'd have to be okay with it. And actually, all of the municipalities would have to be okay with the intergovernmental agreement. So
You said that
any
other ones-
municipality could seek the whole thing, theoretically.
Oh, really? Because you did mention that all the other ones were in agreement, but you didn't get any feedback from Fort Heights at all.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And again, just so you know, this is an amendment, so this is the second time that's passing between all municipalities. So we're hoping that since Fort Heights did approve it once before and signed it, we're hoping that they'll sign it in, and we're gonna get together and answer any questions they have, for any open questions, but it's something that they've already approved. It's just except for the amendment.
But they still have the signature.
Correct. So, that's why we're working, trying to get them to the table and try to get any questions that they have answered. All right, if there's no other questions, you've got plenty of reading. If you're having problems sleeping at night, I think by the time you get to probably about the third or fourth whereas, you should be snoozing like a baby. All right, this will be on the agenda for approval next Tuesday night. All right? All right. This is 2 and 3. All right. Thank you very much for coming out, and thanks for your time. It was good seeing you again there, Jeff. All right. Move to item number 4, motion to approve Police and Fire Commission board member. This last week, we lost a chair to our Police and Fire Commission board. The wake was last night. And with the funeral today. So the funeral's today, so we have an opening. We know we've got some things happening on our Police and Fire board, so we need to make sure we fill this commissioner. I'm on 4. All right. Okay. So tonight, as a mayor, I am presenting to the board Pat Couch for the position of Board of Fire and Police Commission. Is there a motion to approve? Okay, motion, is there a second? Motion second, any questions or comments? Trustee?
Was this put out throughout the village, or was there any notice put out for anyone else that might have wanted to apply?
I can tell you that an appointment to this position is by the mayor with consent approved of the village board.
No, I understand that part. I'm not asking if that part, I'm just asking, was there anyone, anything put out there that you were looking, anything like that?
No.
Okay, I just asked a question.
It's appointment by the mayor, consent approved of the village board. That's what it says by state statute. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Village Clerk, please call roll.
Burgess.
No.
Jones.
Yes.
Hicks. No. Washington.
Yes.
Williams. Myers. Yes. Okay.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Motion carries. Move to item number 5, motion to approve accounts payable for October 28th through November 3rd. Is there a motion to approve? Yeah, motion is there a second? Got a motion? Is there, you got a second?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Motion is second. Any questions or comments?
Question.
Trustee?
I guess this is page 2, under administration, computer software supplies. Is this amount coming out of the $200,000 that we had talked about for reimbursement of equipment and router and equipment purchases? Is that part of the $200,000? Because this is coming out of general fund.
I'm sorry, which one do you want?
Page 2,
I'm on page 2.
page 2 at the top.
Right.
Edge Consulting, and it has a different things that are being purchased. Is this money that we're spending coming out of the $200,000 that was asked to be set aside for computer supplies?
I don't think so. I don't know what the 200,000 is.
when we, what was it, July, we had to, you wanted, we voted on taking $200,000 out for, I won't just say capers, but capers was part of it, to pay for software for the computers. The different computers that we buying from the fire department, police department. Okay, so this is something entirely different.
Correct.
Okay. And then also come down to towards the bottom of the page, where it says the Robert Fox settlement. Are they going to bill us for this? Because remember I asked about that also. Are we going to get rebilled for something that we're doing the same thing over?
We can ask them again.
No, I know it's not on here. I'm asking you, are they going to rebill us for this particular action that they're taking?
Good question you can ask them.
I did ask them, and it was never answered, so but I see this is being moved, you're moving this forward, so I just wanted to find out if they're going to rebuild it for something that, but those are the only two questions that I had.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, close clerk, please call roll.
Burgess.
Yeah.
Jones.
Yes.
Myers.
No.
Tate. No. Washington.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion carries with miscellaneous comments from the Mayor and Board of Trustees. Trustee Williams? Trustee Burgess?
No, no.
Trustee Tate?
I do have a question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It was noted that.
Can you use the mic, please?
Okay. It was noted, and I did see that there was no questions. Is that because you're going to be asking, we can ask questions, or the audience can ask questions at the next meeting, which is in about 45 minutes, and that was the reason? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was noted that way.
Right, yeah, again, that's what it is. I mean, we're having 2 meetings in a row, back to back, so.
So they can ask questions about this meeting, the next meeting?
Correct.
Okay,
Topics of your choice. at the next
right.
meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. Trustee Tate?
My question is primarily about the Police and Fire Commission. I think that, in my opinion, the filling of that position, I think, is rapid. We just lost the member within the last week, and the searches have been completed at 7:15 by now, and it just seems like a rush to judgment to me. I just think the village owes the individual and his family a time to reflect on his service to Sauk Village, the things that he accomplished, and I think by moving to replace him so rapidly, it appears that he did not matter. And in fact, he did. And of course, I'm empathetic to both he and Mr. Diamond, who also transitioned within the last week because they're both veterans. But I just think the village should show a little more compassion to the families in situations like this and not take what appears to be a rush to judgment. The next thing that I have is that the statement was made at the last meeting that the trustees were the reason that employee benefits were not taken care of. And I'm just interested in which trustees voted not to take care of our employees and their benefits. So, Trustee Jones? Did you vote to not? Trustee Washington? Trustee Myers?
Well, we're going around the table, so I just, got it. We're coming to you in the right, go ahead.
No, I think he was asking for a consensus if you voted yes or no about the employee liabilities, not necessarily time for a report.
We've asked that you vote to not pay the compensation in the last council paper. That's what he's asked.
You wasn't here.
He's just going, so,
If you remember, the situation was, it was needing a hand check. That was the problem. There was an email that was sent out. And because we are still, hopefully not here next week, but because we are still up in the air about hand checks and the policy or whatever, that there was confusion. Certain members who signed checks stated that they were not going to sign checks until there was a policy. The mayor stated multiple times, and since the board stated they did not want a consensus and they did not want hand checks, that since this particular thing had to be written as a hand check, I think that's why it wasn't paid. I don't know that any trustee voted no. I think it was their lack of action, which is the problem. That's what I'm not putting thoughts or words into the mayor's mouth, but from what I understood the conversation, it was the lack of action and the miscommunication, I think, because hand checks are okay here, hand checks aren't okay here. Until, like I said before, for the past couple of weeks, until we have a policy, things like this could happen, where our employees, our vendors, whoever could go at risk of not being paid until there's a policy put in place. So I don't think that there was ever a vote that was taken that said, and any trustee said no to the employee's
He
insurance.
said trustees were the reason that the benefits were not taken care of, and certainly in the case of both.
Well, that would be because again, the lack of action by the trustees, whether that was.
This is your interpretation, correct?
Trustee, I'm going to answer this in a minute, so, but I'll do it on my own time. So,
Yes, that was my interpretation.
Okay.
Set by the email that we got, that we were supposed to respond to, and many conversations that we had, that was my interpretation.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Burgess?
I do remember the vote. It was a vote, and I'm sure Trustee Williams, because she separated it. One was for the checks that have already been paid for compensation, and
he's not talking about that. It's something different.
oh, you're not talking about the one that we had a
No.
couple of weeks ago?
No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about something else.
Well, I'll just put it this way. I've never voted not to pay compensation or salary. Back in the day before other mayors, when they were there, we voted as a board to pay compensation, and it meant we couldn't pay anything else, but we made sure we paid compensation and payroll. That I know of, I've never seen the board not pay compensation, because we do know if that happens, that it could affect each or whatever employee. If they go to the doctor and their premium is not paid, they won't be able to utilize the services. So I've never seen that. I never heard of anything. And I don't know if you're saying that that has happened, that the mayor said that has happened, and that's the reason why you're polling. Well, to tell you, from my point of view, I've never heard the board vote against paying compensation or payroll.
Okay, that was the mayor's comment. I was just curious about it because from my making some inquiries, I could not find any information where the trustees voted to do something that affected the benefits of the employees of Sauk Village. So that was my concern. I was just following up on the mayor's comment. Thank you.
Trustee Jones. Just, Trustee Washington.
No comment.
Trustee Myers.
I'm going to ask the clerk to rewrite, and I'm going to have my meeting next Thursday for ordinance review. I'm going to send out your notices, special notice and everything. Because I have a couple pending ordinances that I want to get back on. I want to get it where we get it, some information, and you fill out your agenda on Friday evening, is that correct?
I tried to.
Okay. So if I get everything back and good, I can get a couple ordinances on for the agenda then next week.
Well, Trustee Myers, did you say you're going to call a special meeting this Thursday?
Yeah.
For something to go on the agenda next week? This is actually 7:30, you can run back there.
6:30.
Wait, 6:30. You could run back there and do an agenda right quick. You could have a meeting for 7 o'clock on Thursday. Because you have to have 48 hours notice, then I'll have an agenda for this week. If that's what you want to do, but the board hasn't had a chance to discuss it.
Right after this meeting is adjourned,
And then we would have to
do
have a
that.
special meeting before 7 o'clock to discuss your proposed ordinances, or you can wait, whichever you prefer. But if you're gonna have a meeting on Thursday to discuss some ordinances that are gonna be voted on next week, it would have to be discussed first in a special meeting. And you would have to post that notice 40 hours in advance. That's, I'm just
It's not
telling you.
like this, next, or if on our next Tuesday, our next board meeting, and vote on it.
Yeah.
It won't be voted on until the middle of December. That's your options. I mean, we'll work either way.
Time is really too tight.
You
I-
used to,
I'm not
we're
sure.
probably gonna have a special meeting.
I have two ordinances that have been floating around there. I finally was able to track down. One was one trustee Burgess put in, and there was a misconception that there, I thought there was another ordinance that should have referred to that one. But no, you was right. It came off of 94-11 and the stuff. So that's the reason I had to do some research on that in order to get it done. And that's the reason I laid on that. Your ordinance, I'm still checking on that to see which way to propose that to the board. And I'm really serious. I don't think yours is going to be up on the board next week to vote on. And then the other one, a couple other ones, I'm looking at the Mr. Freeman put one in for education, and that might be ready for next week. It all depends on my information I get back from the state. That's the one I just told the mayor that I'm waiting on one more litigation factor on that one to see if it's right, or have that one printed up for you guys. All right. If that's the case, then we still got an hour to go for a meeting. There's no way.
Half an hour. To 6:30.
Okay. All right. Oh, that'll be moved to next Thursday. Thank you.
All right, real quick, couple things. You already said about the reason for no questions or comments on this agenda, because we have a next meeting, which residents can ask any questions at all. So there is going to be comments from the audience tonight through these meetings. Next thing, we talk about the important position on the Police and Fire Commission. You're correct. It is an important position, and it's a position that we never know when something can come before the Police and Fire Commission. Police and Fire Commission board is only have 3 people, so it's very important that we have a third person on that board, so when they're having their meetings and if anything comes from the board. So we sympathize with the family, but as a community, continue to move forward, and we always feel for the family with their loss, and we send our prayers with the family. Question came up tonight about, is the board responsible for not paying benefits? I'm not going to say all the board's responsible, because all the board's not responsible. There was a percentage of this board that made it very clear and told the mayor no. I listened to the mayor. They said, no hand checks. I said, okay, no hand checks. There was a certain percentage of this board said, we want to vote on stuff. That's why we have accounts payable tonight. Because if you wouldn't have voted for accounts payable tonight, I would not have signed one check by the end of this week for our employees. Because this village board said no. This village board said they don't want consent votes going around the table and asking people yes or no. That's what a percentage of this board said they did not want. Okay? Certain percentage of this board said they wanted to discipline people that signed checks. So we ended up having employees who had signing ability said, I'm not signing checks. And I agree with them. If your job's going to be on the line, don't sign the check. And as mayor, I shall abide by the wishes of the board. You made it very clear, and I'm not going to say all of you, a percentage of you. And believe me, I could probably be a tie-breaking vote and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway, but then I'd be the bad guy, right? Because I didn't listen to 3 trustees on this board. So, you don't want consent votes. I'm not asking for consent votes. You don't want hand checks. I'm not signing hand checks. Until we get something before this board on how we're going to be able to make payroll, expect a special meeting every week so that someone can sign payroll. and someone can sign benefits. So, you know, you say, didn't take a vote, no, I didn't take a vote, I listened to the board. You guys made it very clear sitting up here and pounding your chest and your tables. So, I listened to you, and I'm telling you that, you know, if you want to take blame for something, you can. Because, I'm looking at the entire board. So, if you're guilty, you know it. All right, so with that said, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah, motion is second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.